Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. With the voice, Milt Thompson. Delivering the best of sports programming. Interviews with top celebrities. And the answer to the question, where are they now? And now, Milt Thompson, Playing for Keeps.
Good evening and welcome to Playing for Keeps. I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson, right here on WHMB Channel 40 every Friday night. You know you got to get here when we get on the best of sports programming, not just around Indiana, not just around the state of Indiana, not just around the nation, but really globally. We've had guests here that have global impact. We have another one of those guests here today. We're going to talk about him a little bit later. She's the Enterprise. And everybody gets a nickname on this show here, but she is the Enterprise. And everybody here is going to want to hear a little bit more from her, and we're going to do that today. And, you know, everybody's got a nickname. You know, who do we call? Clark Kellogg, what do we call him? We call him the Vernacular. And what do we call Kathy Jordan? We called her Indefatigable. What did we call Drew Storm? The Fireballer. Everybody's got one. Even Darnell Hillman. He said, I already have one. I'm Dr. Dunk. I said, well, okay, you just slam it today. We're going to give them something different no matter what, because everybody here enjoys this show so much and they let us know about it. And you're going to take care of patronizing our great sponsors. You know, you're going to go to Jiffy Lube, get your car tuned up from beginning to end and through summer, through winter, through all the time, all the seasons. Thanks, Steve Sanner. And there are wonderful people there to make sure you are going to get the best car treatments. And you're going to go to Blicky, Dillon, Crandall. Get your legal services handled. Then you're going to go to East Spot Spas, where all the athletes go to get their wounds healed up, to get their cold laser treatment. You know what, we were talking to Steve Downing when he was in here. He said, man, I got to get over there and get my knees. I said, you're too short, man. We can't give short people knee jobs, man. You come over. But anyway, it worked out just great. But thank you for joining. Thank you for patronizing. I know you're going to be enjoying this show this week because it is with the Enterprise. And that Enterprise is going to be no one other than Tamika Catchings. We're going to do that right after this short break, and you're going to come right back here on Playing for Keeps. Yes, I am the voice, Milt Thompson. We'll be right back.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
And welcome back to Playing for Keeps. And yes, I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson, right here on WHMB Channel 40. We're going to be talking to the Enterprise, folks. You know, every time we get on here, we have someone who is actually a special guest. And we have Where Are They Now guest, but she's been around enough that we know where she's been. We're just going to find out what she's doing these days. And that's the Enterprise, no one other than Tamika Catchings. Tamika, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me, Milt.
Man, it's about time I was able to get you on here. Man, I have to bribe you to get on the show.
Bribe me. No bribing. No bribing necessary.
When I go to the top, though, I mean, I'll do anything necessary to bring out the best. Tell me about your beginnings. You know, you come from a NBA family, and your dad Harvey and my generation folk, and you come from greatness. So, but how did you get to this level? Where'd you start, and how did you ascend?
Well, a lot of it started with my dad. You know, having to go to his games, or not having, wanting to go to his games and being around, especially early on. And you know, I'm really thankful though. My parents put us in a lot of different sports. So soccer was actually my first organized sport. Softball was my second one. Basketball, when I was in third grade, was that's when that came in. And then, you know, volleyball, ran track, was in the band, gymnastics. Pretty much every single sport you can think of, we participated in. And it was really through that journey of trying different sports and finding out, like basketball was my passion.
Well, and your versatility makes a difference. It makes a difference
well,
on...
when you're young, you're not versatile. You're just out there, and if you're the biggest thing out there, you become the center. You're the center, you're the forward.
Right.
And then, you know, but my dad was really, really instrumental in making sure for my brother and my sister and I, like, you're gonna work on all the skills. So you're gonna learn how to dribble, you're gonna learn how to play defense, pass, all of that. So we never really got kind of funneled into one position. It became something that, look, you're going to play every position, so no matter what, you can be on the court.
Well, these days, athletes are getting locked into only one thing, one sport, year-round, and they lose what we used to call versatility.
Yeah.
They don't have how to take your soccer moves and do a drop step, and they don't know how to use a softball move and go underhand and duck and dive. So that versatility allowed you to really perfect an overall game.
Well, it's not just versatility. You use different muscle.
Right.
So, one of the interesting things when you start looking at PT and like young kids now in physical therapy, it's because a lot of times they're having to use the same muscle over and over and over again, because if you play basketball year round, the same muscles get used. But we played basketball, we did volleyball, basketball, and then I ran track and field. So all three of those combined into like just making you more of an all-around athlete.
An all-around athlete. And some people might say, well, she's got it in her family, she's got it in her blood, she's got the genes, but that's not always how it works, right? Yeah. You have to work a little bit, don't you?
You do have to work, and even with that, my mom, thank God she played tennis and was very, very active when we were younger. So like as a family, we did a lot of outdoor stuff. We moved around a lot. And I think that really played into not just the sports aspect, but
life.
my dad didn't play soccer. My dad didn't start playing basketball until his junior year in high school.
Wow.
Went to Hardin-Simmons University, like the pros, the NBA team, started seeing the 6'10" guy at Hardin-Simmons and got recruited, but he didn't start in the beginning. He was a drummer in the band up until that point. So like you think about all of the different things for families, it's just really about getting out, practicing, and finding a sport or finding a few sports that you really love.
Some people, you just kind of pick where they want to go. A lot of people don't have that choice, and they really got to work hard in the camps and in the pre-camps and all. But you found out a Hall of Fame coach.
Yes.
Tell us about that matriculation down there south of Indiana.
Yeah, 8th grade, first time I saw Pat Summitt. And I remember first time I saw women on national TV, and the first time I saw Tennessee Orange, the crowd, it was the game at down there, Thompson Bowling Arena, packed, orange everywhere, and I just saw her going back and forth, and I was like, man, if I get the opportunity, I called her the crazy lady. I'm like, if I could ever get good enough
to play with the crazy lady.
For the crazy, like I wanted that. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be great. And watching her over the next couple of years until I started getting recruited, it's like I want to be pushed in that manner. And that's really how I ended up at Tennessee. And then, of course, like I always say, it was the best decision of my life.
One, you got some mentoring there from the great coach there, but you also had other great players with you and around you for you to manifest a team, There used to be, what they say, there's no I in team. Michael Jordan said there's there's I in win. When it comes down to Tamika, winning is a part of that DNA.
Yeah.
So tell us about the experience at Tennessee.
It was amazing. I always talk about the fact for Pat, obviously as great as she was in the classroom, you brought up the mentoring piece. The thing that she said, we're going to be great in the classroom, we're going to be great on the court, we're going to be great in the community, but overall, when you leave the University of Tennessee and my program, her program, you're going to be great people. And I think for me, having someone that was multifaceted and not just so locked in on basketball, but like, hey, what's going on in your life? What's your, how's your mom? How's your dad? How's your sister? Like, how's your brother? How is your family? And for me, that meant more to me than just the basketball side. Like, I'm a basketball player, and I think even for the young people out there that are listening, you play basketball, but that's not who you are.
Exactly.
And Pat was really, really good at getting to know her players as individuals. Yes, as basketball players, for what we did, but even beyond that, the thing that made us tick, the thing that made us go, and the thing that would make us successful beyond just being on the basketball court.
Well, obviously, the personality that you have is way, way, way bigger, more so, and that's hard to be than your basketball career. But the things that you've been able to achieve and go along with that little desire that you had, you wanted to be the best, well, that kind of came true a little bit.
a little bit.
Came
And not compared to anybody else.
Exactly.
It's just how do you how can you get to your own personal greatness, not looking to your left, not looking to your right? Of course, you see attributes and skill sets and things that you need to work on by watching other players and what other people are doing, watching the NBA, watching the WNBA, watching G League players.
Right.
You know, of course, you get that from watching, but then applying. I'm not going to do everything the same way
you do
as you do it.
Right.
You're not going to do it the same way as me, but you put your own spin on it.
Well, me growing up in the world of sports, women's sports were always on the same sort of pedestal. And then at some level, women's basketball was almost unwatchable. They didn't have the handle. They couldn't. One year, 25 plus years ago, they changed the circumference of the ball, and all of a sudden, they play ball better than the men play the ball because they understand the principles of basketball a little bit more. Tell me about the emergence of women's sports. Women's basketball, the ABL and WNBA was still just kind of maybe an option. And then you had Europe, which really became your options to make some money.
Yep.
So tell us about the emergence and how you track that and how it is you kind of help set the standard for now the modern WNBA.
Well, I mean, you look back 26 years ago, the WNBA was started. 27 years ago, the ABL started, and of course it didn't last, and everything kind of funneled into the W. And prior to that, I mean, there was a couple of other women. The WBL was started before that even, you know, so like you think about the transition of when you think about women's basketball, you think of that transition. WNBA had been able to be sustained partially because the NBA came in the beginning and formed the W out of the NBA. But I think when you look at it now and the fruition of the players, I mean, these young ladies now have the opportunity, young girls, I can watch the game and I can say one day I want to be that. And like my years, I didn't have that. My favorite player was my dad, and then after my dad, my favorite player of all time is Alonzo Mourning. But though I wanted to be them because that's what I saw.
That's what you saw, and you could even emulate them in certain ways when you played. Well, you know, the emergence of Title IX and women in collegiate sports, all of a sudden having equal scholarships, opportunities, that helped change the landscape for people to say, well, you know, I can get a scholarship. Well,
Title IX celebrating 50 years, 2022, celebrating 50 years, but it's not just about sports. It's about equal access and education. Like, we weren't even allowed to get an education and be able to be at the same seats of men, which, you know, you look back 50 years ago, and I think back to, you know, my grandparents and my great-grandparents and not being able to have that. But one of the things that I have, like obviously I own Tease Me Cafe. One of the coolest things for me now when I sit here, my grandma and my grandpa had the first store. So they had a convenience store in Jackson, Mississippi.
There you go.
On the campus right outside of Jackson State University. And I remember going there as a little girl, had no idea even what that meant until now you sit here and think about, I mean, African-American couple on Jackson State University campus in Jackson, Mississippi.
Making it happen.
Opening doors.
I know you're teasing me about 50 years ago, like that's like a long time ago. I mean, you know, some people remember 50 years ago, but that's okay. We're here with the Enterprise here on Playing for Keeps, and we'll be right back with more words from her.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
Welcome back to Playing for Keeps. Yes, I am the voice, Milt Thompson, right here on WHMP's Channel 40. And who do we have? The Enterprise, Tamika Catchings. It's so nice to have her on this show. We've talked a little bit about the family life that she had and growing up inside of a family that they played together. They worshiped together. They did everything together. They traveled together. And she had role models oftentimes back in that day that were all men. And then all of a sudden, the landscape changes. And little girls could look up to the women in sports, and they can actually perform and actually win, get paid, do some other things in their world and in their life. And some people have to lead that charge. Who are some of the women that you looked up to in the sport of basketball?
Well, I would say the '96 Olympics team. You know, that's really where kind of growing up, when I saw the Olympic team, especially remember '96, like they
Yes.
did the whole tour, and I mean they were everywhere, and that's all you saw on TV leading up into the Olympic Games. And I was like, man, if I would love to play with them,
Right.
with the players, but then also have the opportunity to represent my country.
And then travel the world. But you'd already kind of traveled the world a little bit, so
Kind of, but differently.
differently, right,
You know, it's a different experience when you're representing the U.S. and you're traveling and you're going to the World Championships, which are going on, and
Right.
you know you're going to the Olympic Games, because what people see and what other countries see, like we represent all of America.
Right.
So how we talk, how we walk, how we carry ourselves, you know, like it's and all, not just America, but female, like the women. We represent the women, and we've been able to win, so that's been great.
And Tamika represents that as the enterprise. She has got more gold on than anybody I know. I think, you know, some people might argue, Quinn Buckner might argue with you a little bit about his rangs and things.
It's okay.
I know.
We're all family. We're all family.
I tease him a lot just because of it, but it's all great, right?
Yeah.
And my former client Ray Tolbert up to me, I got a Mr. Basketball, and I got an Indiana College Championship, and I got an NBA championship. I said, man, that's all right. That's all right. You ain't got nothing on the enterprise.
Right.
Tell us about we'll get into the fever situation in a minute. But tell us a little bit about the Olympic movement. You just mentioned being able to travel around with some of the elites, not only just in the United States, but at least in the world.
Yeah.
And women are known to play more in Europe and overseas anyway, with a collection of great players. So what was that experience like, going through those camps, being selected like you are and have been, and how many medals? How many counting?
4.
4 medals? They only give out 3 per Olympic game, don't they? Those are gold, silver, and bronze. We don't want to talk about those.
Yeah.
We want to talk about that gold. Tell us about that experience.
I mean, being a part of the Olympics is great, you know, and being a part of the best in the world, the best of the best that America has to offer, going against the best of the best for all the other countries. I mean, it's an experience. You know, I would always say, people are always like, well, which one is better? It's hard to compare because they're all
good.
Yeah, I mean, and the Olympics is every 4 years.
Right.
So think about just the average person, how much you change between year 1 to year 4, year
Right.
4 to year 8, year 8 to 12, 12 to
Right.
16. I mean, like, you're totally different places in life and careers. My last one, I was married. My first one, I'm like a baby in the WNBA. So it's 16-year span. And even before that, I played Junior Olympics. So I think being able to have those experiences were great. And then, of course, playing overseas.
Right.
You know, we go from the WNBA season overseas, like we're literally playing year-round. And I wouldn't take the experience away. And obviously, pay equity and being able to get the ladies paid more. You know, the last CBA that was signed did get the average WNBA player into 6 figures, but
Right.
there's still more that needs to be done.
Right.
We're on that trajectory. We will get there. You know, I think it's hard to look at a 26-year league compared to a 50-something plus NBA league and try to compare the money. What my dad was making in the in the NBA compared to what the women were making, we're making more than during his years.
Right.
We have advanced further in the world. So I agree, we need to we'll find that equilibrium, we'll find that balance, but we need to get there.
There's so much more to it, kind of marketing, sales, how many fans come to games, and what's your market share, how you do that. And that's where the NBA has really been a big support to the WNBA by essentially combining the efforts within them. Let's talk a minute about your experiences here in the great state of Indiana. What got you to the Fever, and how that experience began to help you rise?
Yeah, I mean, blessing Kelly Koskoff, our general manager for the Fever at the time, you know, took a chance because I tore my ACL my senior year in college, and get to WNBA draft day, and you know, I'm waiting to hear my name, and number 3, Indiana Fever select Tamika Catching, then I swear, even at that point, I'm like, they put the mic in my face
Right.
and were like, what do you know about Indiana? I'm like, they like to play basketball.
They like
the Hoosier
basketball.
State, right? Yeah.
Right.
And but it's been a blessing. I mean, being here, the community, the people, obviously the team. You know, having the opportunity to play in the organization for 16 years and then roll over into the front office and be a part of that. I mean, to me, like being here, people ask, where are you going to go? What are you going to do next? And it's like,
Right.
I don't have a plan right now, but I love Indy. I love the Midwest. I love travel and, you know, being a part of so many different things here in Indianapolis.
I just happened to have interviewed on a radio show of mine, Kelly Kosko.
Oh.
And it was right before your draft. And of course,
how was that?
She was being very, very coy about who they were going to select. Because you know the gamesmanship that goes on there, because you serve as a general manager, you know what you're looking for, you know what you need, and you know what other people want and what they're looking for, what they need, and if it's the same thing you're going to do, how are you going to maneuver behind the scenes to make that happen? But she knew she was going after who she deemed was the best player in the country.
Wow.
And that was you. The third pick, how'd you last?
I was hurt.
Yeah, that was true.
Yeah.
I mean,
but everything happened for a reason.
Right.
And being able to come here and be a part of, like I said, this organization, the Simons, absolutely amazing people, you know, and just having that opportunity, I think, for me, personally, I couldn't imagine, like, Seattle was in front of me. Seattle was one. They picked Lauren Jackson. Charlotte Sting picked Kelly Miller, and then me. I'm like, where else would I have been?
Right. But you're really talking about winning and winning big, and that's been the ethos of the Pacers Fever organization. But one thing the Pacers have never done is won a championship.
Not yet.
I didn't say that. I just said they have not won a championship.
Yeah.
But they left it to the women to get it done. Tell us about that ascension to the championship of the WNBA.
Wow, 2012. Go back to 2009.
Right.
Went all the way to Game 5, lost to the Phoenix Mercury. I remember just sitting, we were up 2-1. They came back, it was best of 5. We were up 2-1, they came back and beat us in that final championship round. And that feeling you get, and I was like, when we get this chance again,
Next
we will
time.
not go down like that.
We are not failing
We are
this
not.
time.
And, you know, going up against Minnesota, I mean, obviously, they have all these Olympians and All-Stars and all, like, they were loaded going up against Indiana. And the thing that got me is every single reporter, every single news, like, nobody expected us to win, not even a game.
I know.
So when we won the first game, they were like, oh, it's a fluke. Because then we lost the second game, and then we came back to Indiana, and our fans showed out.
They did.
And we
But
took
y'all
care of
showed out
business.
too.
We
so,
showed out,
so
but
there's a
because of
reason
the
why
fans.
everybody's showing out.
Yeah, the fans.
Exactly. Your playing career was so fantastic that the organization said, she's more than just a player. She is an organizational wizard. She is a leader. And we're going to make sure we keep her in this community because she does so much for the community. Tell us about that ride inside of management and doing those few years that you had there.
I had fun. You know, my first role coming out, Director of Player Programs and Franchise Development. I was really, and still am really interested in developing players while they're playing for life after basketball. And that's not just as professionals, because we're seeing that a lot even with our student athletes in college. You get to the pinnacle, you finish college, you get to the pinnacle, you finish as a professional, and then what? Like, where do you go from here? And if you haven't established yourself while you're playing, it's hard when you get to the other side. And so that was something that I was really, really locked into. So I did the Fever, the Pacers, Fever, Mad Ant, came back, and when I came back, I did the Fever. They moved me into the VP of basketball operation. Then after that season, I became the GM and the VP of basketball operation. Stepped down this last February, 2022, trying to figure out, you know, what I want to do next and where I want to go. But
Well, the enterprise is already doing what is next.
What's that?
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
You know,
help me out, Milt. Help me out.
Anytime you want my assistance, I'll go with that. This woman here, she finally got on my show, and I'm eating breakfast with a friend one morning, and she gets up with all the autograph seekers and everybody taking. She left me breakfast. I said, you know what? I'm going to do exactly what you do. You pay all your skill, all your talents, and the enterprise, she pays it forward. Thank you so much for being on our show. It's been about time.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back here next week on Playing for Keeps.